Hello students, this video goes along with Unit 1, Lesson 1, the coordinate plane. So this is a horizontal line on what we would call a grid. It's just a bunch of squares that fit together. And the grid is really useful for knowing how to divide up the line. So we're going to make this a number line. So back in early elementary school, you started looking at number lines, and you probably only put positive numbers on the number line at first. But as you know now from being in 8th grade, we mark our number lines with positive and negative numbers. So let's do that here quickly. So this one will go to 6. And then starting to the left of the 0, of course, we have -1, -2, and so on. So they look backwards, but they're really not. They go from least to greatest, just like the positive side does. So that's a horizontal. So this line is horizontal, okay? And the way you can remember that is if you're looking, like I was at the beach this morning, if you're looking out at the beach, the horizon is sideways like this. And so if you remember horizon is across the back of the ocean or whatever, you can remember horizontal is this way, side to side. Now, this is a vertical number line. This would be sort of like you would see maybe a thermometer with the numbers on it. And so if we put our numbers on the vertical number line, we would start with 0 here, and the upward direction is a positive direction. So anytime you see something on a vertical number line, above 0 is all those positive numbers, and then below 0 is the negative numbers, and so on. When we put a horizontal number line, which is the red one, and a vertical number line, which is the blue one, together, we get what we call the coordinate plane. Coordinate plane, that's what this is. And so, you know, the middle number right here is going to be 0, which is called the origin. And origin means beginning point. In anything, origin means where you start. So that's where we start, at the 0 in the middle. The coordinate plane has what we call quadrants. And you know the word, the prefix quad means. So it has 4 sections that we talk about. And we number those with Roman numerals. So the quadrants would be quadrant 1, which is here. And then quadrant 2, we go counterclockwise around it. Quadrant 3. And quadrant 4, and 4 is IV. So let's think about what would happen in quadrant 1. Well, since quadrant 1 is on the right side of the horizontal number line and the upper portion of the vertical number line, all the numbers in this area of the coordinate plane are going to be positive because they're going to match up with this part of the horizontal number line and this part of the vertical number line. Let's talk about what the horizontal and vertical number lines are called. This is called the x-axis. The horizontal is called the x-axis. And all the numbers that we talk about on the x-axis are called x-coordinates or x-values. The vertical number line is called the y-axis. And all the numbers that refer to anything on the y-axis are called y-values or y-coordinates. So when we can plot a number, let me grab a different color here. If we plot a point on this grid somewhere, we can identify that point with 2 numbers. And what we do is we just look at the x-axis and the y-axis and see where it lines up. So on the x-axis, this point lines up with 4. Okay, so the x value, would write this in parentheses. I'm going to get my red back. Here we go. So my x value, the one that lines up with the x-axis, is 4. And then I put a comma between them, and I look at my y value, and my y value, it lines up with the 3. So we see, just sort of see where it lines up. So my y value is going to be 3. So that is how I would define this point right here with 2 values, an x value and a y value. Let's try one in quadrant 2. So let's try this point right here. In quadrant 2, all the values are not going to be positive. The x values are going to be negative because they are this is on the left side of that x-axis, and then the y values are going to be positive. So let's look and see where this one lines up, and we can name this one as well. I'm going to go ahead and put my parentheses and my comma. My x value is going to be -5. So that's how I would name that one. And then my y value, let's see where it lines up on that axis or on that number line, that's going to be a 4. So I have a negative and a positive in this quadrant. Let's look at quadrant 3. Let's say you were asked to plot -3, -2. So here's what you would do. You would start at the origin, okay? And the -3 is the x value. So it tells me to move to the left because it's a negative number. So I would move to the left 1, 2, 3 places. And then that -2 is also a negative number, and that tells me to move down. Positive would be moving up, negative would be moving down. So the -2, I'm going to move down -2, and I'm going to plot that point right there. Then to double check myself, I could say, well, where does that line up on the x-axis? It lines up with the -3. That's -3. And on the y-axis, -2, and that's -2 right there. And we can also put that right there. So in quadrant 3, all of your values are going to be negative. So your x is negative and your y is negative. In quadrant 2, your x will be negative and your y would be positive. Quadrant 1, they're both positive. And let's look at quadrant 4 lastly. In quadrant 4, our x values are positive and our y values are negative. So that's what should happen every time you plot a value in, or a point in quadrant 4. Okay, we'll do one more. Let's say you were asked to plot the point 2, -4. Okay, so start at the origin. 2 tells me to go right, so I'm going to go to +2, and that's my first value is the x value. So I'm going to go to +2, and then I'm going to go down 4 to line up with that -4, and that point is right there. And if you double check, you see it lines up with the +2 and the -4.